Hey you, hey. Welcome back to Every Piece of Me Matters. I am your host, Cindy Holden, and it's good to see you tonight. It is really good to see you, and I'm glad to be here. So whether it's your first time stopping by or you've been by here before and you heard something good and decided to come back, 2 thumbs up. Tonight's episode, we're going to be taking a look at ourselves in the mirror. What you talking about, Cindy? Yes, taking a look at ourselves, let's just say in the metaphoric mirror, right? And perhaps when you leave here, by the time you leave and we finish our conversation, you'll want to do that, literally take a look at yourself in the mirror. So before we dive in tonight, I want to ask you to do something with me. Y'all know, you've been here before. It's time to take a breath. Perhaps you just finished work, or you've been out running some errands, or whatever it is. Take a breath with me. No special way. Just be intentional and know that you're breathing. You ready? I'm gonna count to 3. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. I needed that. It's true. It's true last week. It's true this week. Unwinding from my day. And so I'm going to dive right in on tonight. I was thinking about, like, if I was to give this a title, and I will, what would that title be? It loosely comes from a phrase, the adage, whatever you call it. I call it the old school conversations, right? You may remember this. Does what you see in the mirror, is it a true reflection of you? That's the question, right? But here's the title. Here we go. The mirror don't lie. I know I had to set you up gently for that one. The mirror doesn't lie. I've heard people say that, right? The mirror don't lie. It see what it see. Does it? That is a question for tonight. And so as I thought about, the mirror, when's the last time that you really looked at yourself in the mirror? Now, I'm not talking about as you're brushing your teeth, you take a quick glance, make sure you got it right. Or even as you're about to go out the door, just kind of check and make sure your hair is together. But really paused and looked at yourself in the mirror. I'm just giving you a moment to respond, right? This is a safe space, and it's a judgment-free zone, and there is no criticism here, right? And so as you take time to reflect on that question, here's why I asked that. What we see in the mirror, all right, I'll speak from that eye perspective because I've experienced this. What I see in the mirror is an image, right? So when I look in the mirror, there is the image. But the meaningfulness, the interpretation, if you will, of what I see, that comes from an inner place. That comes from within myself. And it's shaped by many different things, whether it's my past, it can be my present too, the things I say to myself about myself, perhaps some of my experiences, or even messages that I heard from others. We talked about some of those last week. And so you think about what that means for you. When I look at myself in the mirror, how am I interpreting what I see? For some of us, it's very uncomfortable. For others, it's just downright, I'm not doing that. There's this sense of avoidance. And then there are some who walk away with different types of negative ideas about themselves. And so again, this is not for judgment, but it's for introspection. You take a look within yourself and see what you come up with. I use the mirror, to be honest, and in looking at it, I always came up with some kind of, I wish I could change this, looking at my nose or a few marks or something on my face. It's like I created this story, and it was based primarily on what I saw on the outside, not realizing that really the mirror, if we look at it from this perspective, and I'm encouraging you to do that, it's about our inner dialogue. Yes, what I'm saying to myself, what I'm thinking about myself, how I'm analyzing myself. And so for some, the mirror has become an enemy. Yeah. So the inner dialogue is, let's put it this way, it is shaping, it is telling us this is true, but it doesn't always match. What we feel, what we think, and what we believe to be true about ourselves. For some, they take away and that becomes their identity. An example of that, perhaps you've experienced, and I think many of us have, rejection, or here's the big one, the social media craze, right? Whether it's Instagram or X or Twitter or whatever these different social media sites, many are scrolling through. I've done the mindless scroll too, right? And so there's all type of comparisons. And so we look at ourselves and then we look at others and then we draw, certain things, I'm not this or I should be doing that. And so as you ask yourself, right, as you take a look in the mirror, whether you decide to do it literally or as you take a look metaphorically, meaning within yourself, what are the reflections? What meaningfulness, if you will, are you creating for yourself about yourself? And how does that play out in how you value yourself? I think back to things that I was taught growing up, whether it was related to, my faith as a believer and the things, that we should do and should not do. So values and a lot of don't do this and don't do that, right? Well-meaning things to help shape how, I was as a person. And I would say a lot of those things, I believe them to be true until I began to, growing up and developing, I call it doing my own work, really getting in touch, going within myself, getting in touch with me, evaluating, do I really believe this? And what does it look like in my life? And so a perfect example of that was, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Speaking about my identity. First, of course, I took that outwardly, literally. Yes, I'm created by God. He made me. And it was a saying, my grandmother used to say this all the time. God made you and he didn't make no junk. And then something else she would say to us is like, you may be a rascal sometime, but you're God's rascal. And so taking a look at the things that I said about myself, versus what I actually believed about myself. Now, I believed in the Creator and that He created me. But based on my experiences, decisions that I've made, and things that I've done, when I looked in that internal dialogue, right, what I said inwardly, it wasn't what people were saying outside. That had some impact too. But what really began to impact my life is what I said to myself about myself. The mirror, the internal dialogue, the mirror that I looked in, the meaningfulness, analyzing myself, comparing myself. I really didn't believe what I said. Meaning, oh yeah, I believe in a Creator, right? But I'm not fearfully and wonderfully made. And so it impacted my self-esteem, right? In a way that I'm not going to say I didn't have any self-worth or esteem. You know, when I did things and I accomplished things, I felt really good about myself. But then there were times of disappointment, mistakes, bad decisions where I loathed, and I'm using that like a self-loathing, like a self-denial or betrayal. I did not believe that I was fearfully and wonderfully made. I did not believe that I deserved. So the mirror that I looked in, I allowed that to be my reality and shape my identity. It played around with, again, self-acceptance. And so what I want to encourage you to think about as you take this challenge or the open invitation, I want you to ask yourself, when I look in the mirror, what do I see? Do I see flaws on the outside? And if that's what you see, again, judgment-free zone, I want to encourage you to lean in a little further, go a little deeper. What do you see? And what do you say when you take a look at yourself, who you are, what you believe about you, what has shaped those beliefs, and are they really true? Yeah. The mirror can be your best friend. Taking the time to evaluate, to assess, taking the time to realize that the things that have helped to shape, be it trauma, other experiences, periods of rejection, whatever it is, they do not have to define who I am or what I see. I may feel a certain way, and those are your feelings. You don't have to avoid your feelings, but at the same time, feelings are not final, and they are not always accurate indicators of what's true. They're like a warning system in a way, trying to get our attention, to pay attention. But they do not have to define who you are or create a narrative that goes against who you were created to be. And so as we kind of bring it in, there's a song, and I wanted to play it, but I'm mindful of the whole copyright stuff. The song is by Hathaway. I want to invite you to check it out. It's called Mirror. And so I want to read some of the lyrics. I pulled it up so I won't misquote it, but I want to read this to you. So again, it's by Hathaway, that's the artist, and the song is called Mirror. It starts off, it says, bitter hearts don't hold a smile. Troubled minds will wear you down. It says, use your past to get ahead. hold your tears and think instead. You have to find a way to make it, for these clouds are letting up for a while. And this is one of my favorite parts of the song. This is the hook, right? It says, sometimes you've got to make the mirror your best friend, and maybe then you'll find some peace within. Stop hiding yourself. From last week, remember? And she says it again, stop hiding yourself. Love yourself when no one else can. And then she goes on to say, you just go on and brush your shoulders off. Why? This bridge is one that you must cross. You have to find a way to make it, for these clouds are letting up for a while. And then she repeats it again. I'm going to say it. Sometimes you've got to make the mirror your best friend, and maybe then you'll find some peace within. Stop hiding yourself. Show yourself and love yourself like no one else can. And so there's another part, but I'm going to encourage you to go check it out again. The artist is Layla Hathaway. I love music. There's a message in the music. And so music that is uplifting, inspiring, motivating. I'm into different types of genres, so check that song out. And so in conclusion today, I don't want to hold you too long. I want you to consider you've got a voice. And so when you look into the mirror, I want you to think about what your voice is speaking. So stand in the mirror, literally. Now this is the literal mirror. Stand in the mirror. Stand tall and look yourself. Take a look at the image. And what do you see? You're not looking to fix anything, to change anything right away. You're looking, and perhaps you can acknowledge every piece of me matters. The right, the wrong, the weak, the strong, the good, the bad, or the indifferent. No criticism, nothing but loving myself like no one else can. I'm not going to hide myself, but I'm going to make the mirror my best friend. I'm being mindful of what I say to myself. That's that internal dialogue. What am I saying to me about me? And when I notice that voice of criticism, listen, allow that voice to come forward, because no part of you is bad. Every part of you matters. Nothing gets wasted. But gently, with kindness and compassion, remind that voice, hey, every part of me matters. I've survived a lot. I've been through a lot. I'm still here. And so what I see is hope and faith, resilience and strength and wisdom. What I see is God's creation. And as I'm learning and growing and embracing every piece of me, I'll remind myself that I really do matter. And that acknowledgement alone lets me know that healing is possible. And so, my sisters, this is our time together for this evening. Just take a moment. We still have a moment. What came up for you as we had our conversation tonight? Those questions of what you see in the mirror and what has shaped the meaningfulness that you make, that inner dialogue, what you say to yourself. What has come up for you? Just take a moment to check in with yourself. And whatever it is, again, it's not to force, to fix, or to change anything in this very moment, but to be aware. Because in this moment, awareness, it can be enough. So, if nobody has said it to you today, I'm going to say it. Hey sis, hey you, every piece of you matters. Nothing gets wasted. It all works together for your good. So, until next week, I'm your host, Cindy Holden. I'll see you next week right here at Every Piece of Me Matters. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Help get the message out. Help the mission to get out to other women, whether it's your sister, your auntie, your niece, big mama and them, whoever, godmama. I would really appreciate if you would share the message with someone else so they too would know that every piece of them matters. I'll see you next week.